Try imagining a place where it's always safe and warm. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm.
European military personnel are arriving in Greenland in a show of solidarity with the Danish territory. It came after a meeting between U.S., Danish, and Greenlandic officials in Washington ended without a settlement. President Donald Trump has made repeated calls to make Greenland part of the United States, quote, one way or another. Greenland is located in a strategic part of the world. It sits mainly in the Arctic Circle, an area that also encompasses the likes of the U.S., Canada, Russia, and Norway. Our correspondent, Rory Challens, is in Greenland's capital, Nuuk, with the latest.
This building here is the Joint Arctic Command Centre in Greenland's capital, Nuuk. And if any country did invade Greenland, be that Russia or China, as Donald Trump has been warning, or even the United States itself, Donald Trump has refused to take military action off the table, then this place is Defence HQ. And it's seen plenty of activity in the last day or two, with Denmark and now European allies all sending extra military personnel to Greenland. Now, there are countries like the UK, Germany, Norway, Sweden and France who are all participating in Denmark's Operation Arctic Endurance. This is on top of Denmark saying last year that it was going to increase funding of Arctic defence by $4.2 billion, going to 2 new Arctic ships, maritime patrol aircraft, drones and radar systems. Now, this is for 2 reasons. One is to persuade Donald Trump that Denmark and its NATO allies are taking Arctic defence seriously. But also it would have the effect of making any US military incursion into Greenland that much more complicated. And think about that for a second. Denmark and its European NATO allies are having to consider military deterrence against the United States. Rory Challens, Al Jazeera, Greenland.
French President Emmanuel Macron says France will beef up its military presence in Greenland soon.
The Europeans have a particular responsibility for Greenland, an autonomous territory of Denmark, because this territory is part of the European Union and also because it's part of one of our NATO allies. France has decided to join the exercise programmed and launched by Denmark in a sovereign and independent manner as part of Operation Arctic Endurance. The first French military team is already on site and will be reinforced in the coming days by ground, air and maritime means.
And Natasha Butler reports from Paris.
Well, it was a pretty somber speech by the French President Emmanuel Macron addressing French armed forces. He said we are now living in a brutal world where there is a new form of colonialism. He did not mention US President Donald Trump by name or Washington specifically, but he talked very much about the fact that Europeans must be ready to defend Greenland, must be ready to protect their own sovereignty. What we've seen in the past few months is European countries often being on the back foot when it comes to Donald Trump, often being very slow to respond. But there is a shift that does seem to be changing, particularly since the US's actions in Venezuela. We have seen now European leaders far more ready to take what Donald Trump says at face value, to take it more seriously and respond. And that is why countries, including France, have decided to send military personnel to Greenland. Emmanuel Macron says that history will judge European nations if they don't take their responsibility for what could happen. Natasha Butler, Al Jazeera, Paris.
Meanwhile, Russia's foreign ministry rejected Washington's claim that U.S. intervention in Greenland is necessary to stop threats from Moscow and Beijing.
The myth that has been promoted by Denmark and other NATO and EU countries for many years of some form of Russian threat looks especially doubtful. Initially, this myth was used by Washington to justify its claims on Greenland. Now we found out that Greenland is just a natural sphere of influence for the US. This is stated in its recently published national security strategy.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to
Lemfi. If President Trump succeeds in what he seems to be trying to do, goodness knows where we'll all be next year, and Greenland will only be one part of it.
Is Donald Trump a bigger threat to NATO than President Putin?
I would not say that, because, of course, Putin is directly making war in Europe.
I potentially would say that he is a greater threat, because what he is doing threatens to break up NATO. The Russian invasion of Ukraine united NATO.